I want you to come with me on a small trip down imagination lane. Close your eyes for a second, if you will.
The year is 2099. Evil tech billionaires are deep in the pockets of the world government. These are the same men who control the flow of information around the world. There's a national arms race in which AI is rapidly advancing, replacing the people that it feeds off of. This is forcing millions around the globe to get tattoo guns, become baristas, and sell vintage clothing online. It's gotten so bad that you have to question if the voice on the other end of the phone truly is that of your dying grandmother.
Now, this might sound like the plot of a science fiction novel that I just came up with, but it really does not take much to see that this is the world that is going on outside of your window. My name is Nate, a CS and design student, and with every single strange, absurd TikTok news headline I see, I've started to wonder, how did we get here?
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world.
Worldwide, people spend an average of 6 hours and 40 minutes per day on screens. In the US, average screen time per day hits 7 hours and 3 minutes. Nearly half, 41% of American teenagers 13 to 18, have a screen time of more than 8 hours per day. Gen Z is the first generation of digital natives. What does this mean? Well, this means that we are the first generation to grow up with the internet existing. Opposed to previous generations who grew up alongside the internet, we've pretty much had access to any piece of information anywhere at any time for most of our lives now. 95% of teens have access to smartphones, and about 4 in 10 of them said they spend too much time on it. So why don't we just stop? Why don't we just stop? In the book Stolen Focus, Why You Can't Pay Attention and How to Think Deeply Again, the author Johann Hari compares this question to asking a smoker to quit smoking when their whole job is testing cigarettes. I know most people can relate to this, as a lot of screen usage is involuntary, whether it be for work, schoolwork, or just relaxing. I know I find myself looking at my laptop, taking a break to look at my phone, and then when I'm done, I just watch something on the TV. A lot of people online act like this isn't a problem and glorify the so-called brain rot, but I couldn't help but feel sad when thinking of my existence through this lens, always tethered to a screen, and I couldn't pin down exactly what was upsetting me about this, so I decided to do a little digging. In doing so, I found that the topic of screen usage and the effects of being online is a criminally understudied field, at least in the public eye. In 2014, Meta apologized for running psychological experiments on its users without their consent, testing new features and seeing what effect it had on their mood and app activity. Since apologizing, this has become a common practice that they still participate in. It's well known that Instagram pushes new features to half its users while keeping it from the others in what's called a feature rollout. It's easy to say that this is done to improve the app, but what does improving the app even mean? Like, sure, there's ways to test bugs and gauge reactions, but let me lead you down a conspiratorial rabbit hole, if you will. If you think about who runs these companies, they're all the richest people in the world. They're all completely disconnected from day-to-day life, doing things that'll never be done by most people, like taking a private jet to your 1,300-acre estate in Hawaii. And how do they even get all this money anyways? No one pays for platforms like Instagram or Facebook, so how do they make so much money? Well, there's 2 major sources of income for social media companies: advertisements and your data. The more you look at their app, the more ads you see, the more money they make, the more data they have to sell to companies and advertise to you. Having a business model like this basically incentivizes companies to keep people on their app for as long as possible. They're driven by maximizing profits without stopping to consider long-term side effects from new features. But we can just stop looking at our phones at any time, right? So what if I'm on a screen for 8 hours a day? I get to look at silly videos of dogs in suits dancing and exhale out of my nose like... Another thing I wanted to touch on is what are the physical effects of using a screen for so long every day. I don't really want to spend too much time on it since it's like a completely different rabbit hole to go down. There's plenty of articles on how social media affects mental health and perception of ourselves, so that's no secret. There's also plenty of studies about blue light and how it's bad for you, affecting your sleep. But what really stuck with me from reading Stolen Focus was that at one point, people rose with the sun and got more tired as it darkened, letting the earth determine their circadian rhythms. Since the invention of artificial light, people have been empowered to determine their circadian rhythms themselves, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Now, screens maximize our exposure to light, shaping the rhythm at which we rise and fall to the whim of coders and CEOs. Aside from this, there's plenty of evidence that reading rates are declining. This correlates with a lack of empathy, critical thinking, and sustained focus. People graduate high school and college and can't read. Ask someone around you, when's the last time they read a book? It's becoming especially apparent now with the crackdown on education funding that billionaires don't want you to be smart. One night, I was trying my best to explain to my parents how scary it can be growing up in the modern world. Every day, a new tragedy or development seems to shift the way the world turns around us. Things like AI determining the job market, mass bombings and deportations, the price of eggs. My dad, seeing how distraught every problem in the world was making his son, tried to offer one piece of solace. Well, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, that doesn't make me feel any better. I like to think I have some sort of power to fight back, even if it's in the littlest way. But what if he's right? What if there's nothing I can do about it? And we're all doomed to the fate decided by our evil tech billionaire overlords. I felt pretty defeated after doing all this research. These people have every resource at their disposal, time to plan and study, and money to fund all their research. They got private jets to destroy the world with. They have no reason to care for the little guy, as long as we are compliant to what they give us. And I guess that's why my mission for this video is to change how people think about their choices in using and making new technology. I think, especially as designers, we have to think of our users first. Like, imagine if every new feature implemented into an app was actually developed with improving our lives in mind and not just maximizing how many hours we stare at their ads. I really believe that technology should help us and not hold us back. It shouldn't distract. Now, these companies would be nothing without their workers, designers, coders, etc. Meet one of their employees, Oz Raskin, an ex-Google employee and inventor of the infinite scroll. He was proud of this invention. At the outset, it looks like a really good invention. He believed he was making life easier for everyone. He had been taught that increased speed and efficiency of access were always advances. His invention quickly spread all over the internet. Ozza sat down and did the calculation. Infinite Scroll makes you spend 50% more on a string of social media sites as a direct result of his invention. The combined total of 200,000 human lifetimes, every moment from birth to death, is now spent scrolling through a screen. At one point not too long ago, the internet was divided into pages. People had to sit down to access the internet on a computer or a laptop. The intentionality when using the internet is completely gone now. Like, for what reason do I need to know the latest news about Kai Cenat and the Rizzler creator crash with Hawk Tuah Girl and the Costco guys? Our consumption of content has become meaningless. The more meaningless, the better for some people. But it's cool to be nonchalant. I'm just a chill little guy. But I'm not nonchalant. I'm not a chill little guy. I'm passionate and I care deeply about a lot of things. I'm even brave enough to post an Instagram story about a protest I didn't end up going to. Now, recently I had the experience of showering while listening to a YouTube video when an ad came up that made me just stand back in shock. It was for an AI business partner, and their whole thing was that you should use the AI business partner and not a friend because you'll lose your friend by starting a business. And I thought to myself, well, shouldn't technology help us connect with people, not remove this communication with our friends from our lives? I took off my headphones on the bus recently, which is a rare occurrence, and I realized how silent it was. The bus seats were filled with many people. They were all locked into their phones, and while staring over one man's shoulder to look at his reel pole, I try to imagine how it would look if Instagram was meant to connect with people around us, instead of locking us into an endless scroll. I urge everyone, especially my peers who are designers and coders, to think critically about the things they put out into the world. Think about how will this improve people's lives, not increase your boss's revenue. Don't be afraid to stand up to bad practices and be passionate about the things that matter to you. To me, there's no use speculating whether or not technology is going to harm or help us. I think that you should be the change you want to see in the world, since the best way to predict the future is to change it.